Funeral Directors Management System, or FDMS, was designed in 1981 by funeral directors for funeral directors. It was built to operate exactly the way a funeral director thinks when they're working on a case. It makes everything more efficient and streamlined, saving a lot of time and making sure none of the details are missed when managing each of your cases. FDMS was the first web-based funeral home solution. At one point it was owned by SCI, then Foundation Partners, and in 2015 Jake Johnson of Johnson Consulting Group bought it and started improving it. We continually make improvements based on our customers' feedback. The primary goal of FDMS is to manage cases, and it's particularly good for those funeral homes who are still doing everything on paper. And that might be you. It allows you to put in first call details, vital statistics, the family and relative details, obituaries, service times, veterans benefits, and the strength of the program is in the financial details, because Johnson Consulting Group manages the accounting for hundreds of funeral homes across the country. This program has to be very strong and robust in writing and building those contracts and taking multiple types of payments, making supplemental contracts or adjustments to those contracts and payments. There are also over 100 standardized forms that are all printable. I'll be giving you an overview of each of these features during this demo. I also want to point out that FDMS is accessible from anywhere, anytime, because it is web-based, which means that as long as you have an internet connection, you can log into the system from anywhere, from your smartphone, tablet, iPad, desktop, or laptop computer, at work or at home, or out in the field. No matter where you are, if someone on your staff or a decedent's family member has a question about anything in the system and you're at home or out at a service, you can pull up the case and answer the question or address the concern right away. Recently, an FDMS client was marveling at the fact that he and another funeral director were in 2 different locations talking on the phone. Both of them were logged into FDMS looking at the same client file and editing information in it at the same time. People always ask about how secure the data is because it's on the web. We use Amazon servers, one of the largest server farms in the world, so your data is protected based on their specifications for protecting data. We can certainly get you more information about this if you're concerned, but many Fortune 500 companies have their data on Amazon servers, which gives us insight into how secure they are. When you're an FDMS customer, you also have a connection to our other software program, which is our Performance Tracker software. Performance Tracker gives you a vast amount of sales analysis and details. This gives you a great deal of insight into how your funeral home is performing in your market and against itself. It very clearly helps you understand whether you are maximizing each contract to the best of your ability. Some of the largest funeral homes in the industry have used it and still do, and we're always looking for ways that we can make improvements. Here are some of our largest clients. Now I can show you the details of the program. I'll show you some of the reporting that we do that is specific to the cases, at need, pre-need, and inventory. Just to give you an idea, we do have a number of accounting reports that are available to you in the system, and we can create custom reports for you and your organization. The materials you're using now can be recreated in FDMS. We have an aging report if you're concerned about collections. There are samples of death certificates from every state. All the veterans benefits forms are in the system as well. We have 123 standardized forms. These are probably all you'll need. If there are any custom forms you have, we'll take a look at them and determine whether we have a form in the system that will be able to replace it. If we find that the details you need on your custom form are not on any of our forms, we can create it for you. We just charge an hourly rate to create it. So let's log into the system and get a feel for it. You can see that FDMS is a web-based program. I'm on the newwebfdms.com website, and I'm in the login page. Based on your username and password, which will be unique to you, when you log in, you will only see the funeral homes that you have access to. If you have one funeral home, that's what you'll see. If you have multiple funeral homes, that's what you'll see. In this sample account, there are multiple locations, so I can select whichever funeral home I want to look at, or I might want to look at all of them. When we select the funeral home or homes, the landing page is very simple. We're just trying to manage cases. We like to think of this from the perspective of the funeral director's mind. If you're sitting at your desk and you have a number of manila folders or file folders on your desk with the decedent's name, with the case number, or whatever information you have on the spine of each of those folders, this is what we're giving you in a digital format right now. I see all of these names listed in here, and each of them is a file folder for a case that I'm working on. You see a listing of each of the cases. You can sort it however you want, by at-need contract number, last name of deceased, service date, whatever a particular funeral director is comfortable with, they can set up for themselves. You can open any of the files to look at the cases. I can create a new at-need. I can create a new pre-need. But first, let's open one of the folders here to see what's inside. You see the name of the deceased. Here's the funeral home, the funeral director, and it will be any one of 4 different statuses. This is where the financial component of the system comes in and should be familiar to you in the way that you manage your funeral home. You may have a case that is unposted, meaning we've written a contract and we're expecting to collect money for it. It could be voided, meaning we're not going anywhere with it. And it could be pre-need, in which case it will stay active until the client passes away. It could be posted, meaning we've written a contract and we're expecting to collect money for it. You can filter through to see any posted or unposted cases, or only one or the other if you want, or just voided or just pre-need. But right now we're seeing all of them. Let's look at one of the cases. You see these plus signs? Anytime you click on a plus sign, it drops down and it gives you a snapshot of the case. Here's some service information, disposition, informant, contact information. And when I open up one of these folders, I see all of the forms and documents that I would normally have to fill out and all the things that I need to do to manage this case. So here we're just looking at the different pages that are in this folder. You see all the tabs that are up here, and you see how some are gray and some aren't. When a tab is gray, it just means that I've already input some data for that tab. This person looks like they were a veteran because the tab is gray. We've filled out some obituary notice information. We've filled out some payment information, custom files, file uploads we've done. We've done a few of these things. These here, the donations tab and the financial tab, are white because we don't have any information yet that we put into those tabs. I'll walk us through each of these tabs to give you an idea of how much information we collect and what you can do with that information. The whole purpose of this is to make your life easier in managing a case. I'll just start with the Call Info tab. We have an integration with most of the call services. So if you are, for example, an ASD client, we're able to push information out to them. Let's say you have a pending case and the answering service picks up a call in the middle of the night. They're able to see the information in their system and are able to answer a few questions about when the service will take place and some other basic information. You only have to type the information into the system once, and it goes over to the answering service so that they're able to share when needed. So this is where we put in the call information. Here, we put in the arrangement date, the funeral home, the facilities, the funeral director, how the family came to us, decedent information, the place of death, the address, and just the basics. This should be familiar to you. With FDMS, our goal is to continually find ways to make your life as a funeral director easier. So when I look at the informant, for example, I've only had to type that person's information into the system once. All we have to do is put each set of information into the system one time, and it spreads out everywhere and allows you to print out any form that has that information. Think about right now, if you're working with paper, how many times you have to write the decedent's name and date of birth and date of death on various forms. With FDMS, you type that information in once, and it carries over to every location on every form that it's needed. Let's say the informant is also the next of kin, the executor, the bill-to party, has the same address as the deceased. You check these boxes. And the information automatically populates the proper areas in the forms where the information is needed. Looking at vitals, we're able to complete information for the death certificate. We're currently undergoing an initiative to connect with every state's death certificate office. Once this is up and running, the death certificate for your state will automatically fill in with the information that has been put into the case file. It's not there yet, but the fact is, you're still doing a lot less work with FDMS the way it is, and it's only going to get better. One way to look at this is at how death certificates are processed in your organization right now. If you have someone other than the funeral director processing the death certificates, then all they have to do is go into FDMS where the information is clean and accurate, go to the website for your state's death certificate processing, and enter the information at any time without having to search for it on a funeral director's desk in a file. To give you an idea of what this looks like, over on the right of the screen are 3 blue boxes, and they stay there, no matter which tab I have open. So if I click on Forms, I can see all the forms and documents that can be printed with information about this case. As an example, I could search for death certificate. And let's say it's in Missouri. This is exactly what that form looks like. As long as the funeral director entered the information into FDMS, the person who processes the death certificates can print them out and just copy the information from the system. This definitely reduces the risk of errors. The next tab is Relatives. Remember how the informant was also the next of kin? Well, she carried over to this page. You can enter any number of relatives to keep track of all of the people related to this decedent. The next tab is Veterans. You'll see that all of these forms will be familiar to you. They're exactly the same as the forms you fill out by hand or with a typewriter. These forms auto-populate with the pertinent information that has already been put into the system for the decedent. Service information. Here's where we add in the information for the services that are going to take place. We add any notes that we need to. We can put in the cemetery and crematory, the church, the minister, flower arrangements, visitation details, the staff, and the automobile being used, etc. There are always a set number of cemeteries that your funeral directors visit on a regular basis. And here we have a drop-down listing them. Wherever you see a downward arrow, that's a drop-down. And if you don't find what you're looking for in the drop-down, click on the 3 dots next to the arrow, and you can add in a location. We call this speed data. This goes for all of the drop-down menus in the system. There's no need for you to feel overwhelmed about all of the information that you'll need to have placed in these drop-downs. We'll help you get these set up. And you can always maintain these as a manager to make sure that the same location isn't being entered more than once. Then we go to the Obituary tab, where we can set up templates for you based on the guidelines of your local newspapers. They can be named as well. The Kansas Star, the Chicago Tribune, the San Francisco Chronicle, whatever newspapers you use, we will create these for you. You type in the obituary, and then you can print it out or email it directly to the newspaper. And if it's on a website like legacy.com or any other website that stores obituary notices, you can include the link for it here, because you're not only managing the case, you're also archiving it for future reference. So if, for instance, the spouse dies 10 years from now, you can look in this case and see what was written in the obituary as a reference. This also saves you time. Do you ever take donations from families on behalf of the decedent? For instance, when they say, in lieu of flowers, please donate to the American Cancer Society. If you do that, you're probably aware of the financial rules. When we manage a company's accounting, this information transfers to QuickBooks so that we know that this money does not show up as revenue and that it's money that will pass through and go out to the named charity. So this is the tab where you can manage those funds. You can put in who you're collecting the funds from, what charity it's going to, how much they paid, and how they paid. Then once it's in there, you can print them a donation letter saying thank you, and you can send a letter to the informant letting them know that a donation was made on their behalf. And you can generate a report. Any kind of letter you want, we can create and customize for you. Financials is where we write contracts so that we can print out a statement of goods and services, and we'll look at that in just a moment. And payments is where we manage all payments and print out receipts, and we'll also look at that in just a moment. The Custom tab is for forms that are only used by your organization and are customized. So if you have a specific method that only you and no other funeral home uses for taking information, this is where those forms would be. And then finally, the last tab is the File Upload. This case will be archived, and you can, for example, put in a picture of the deceased, the program, a copy of the prayer card, any signed contracts. You have no limit to the number of files that you can upload. Just make sure that each file is 20 megabytes or less, which should take care of about any file except possibly a video of the entire service. In other words, there's plenty of room for the files you want to save. There are two things that you may have noticed near the top and center of each screen. One is the contact page, where everyone that is related to the deceased is listed with their contact information and their relationship. It's just a quick lookup for convenience. Then we have the Notes page, where any and all notes are kept for this decedent and their services. These details make it much easier to manage the case. There can be financial notes, service notes, contract notes, any conversations you've had with the families. This gives you a quick reference to these details and also helps those from your organization who may be helping with the service. It gives your receptionist a quick reference, and also the answering service will have some of this information. I showed you earlier the menus on the side of the screen. The Forms menu, where you can search for and print out over 100 forms. If you use a company for stationery to print out prayer cards, for instance, we can integrate that into the system so that the information is automatically pushed out to generate the prayer cards. But if you don't have a system like that, we can format the prayers for your printer so you can easily print them out without having to retype any information. The name of the decedent, their nickname, their date of birth, and date of death will all show up. This tool saves time as well because you don't have to go to a Word document or publisher. No cutting and pasting. And we have dozens of prayers to choose from. When you look through them, let's say you realize that you'll only be using 20 of them. We'll clean up the list for you so that only those 20 are there. There are also multiple receipts and death certificate forms, veterans forms, etc. You can reprint them from here. All the forms you need in one place. Then you have checklists. You can create your own at-need checklist for all the things you need to do to close this case out, as well as an aftercare checklist. So you may want to put in something as a reminder to make a call, say, in 2 weeks or a year, or to send out a letter. These are customized by you. We're working on an integration with Outlook so that eventually you'll get a reminder for these tasks that you want to get done. Then we have bookmarks for those websites that you use all the time. Here you can have listed the websites that you order flowers from, State Vital Statistics website for processing death certificates, your casket provider, anything. The whole goal is for you to live in FDMS world, to have the screen open and manage everything from one place. As you can see, the system is pretty self-explanatory. Now let's say that a family has just come in and you want to quickly open a case and get started writing a contract, a statement of goods and services. I've brought us back to the home screen, and we click on New at Need. And it opens the first call information. There are only a few fields I need to fill out to get started. The name of the funeral home, in the drop-down, the name of the funeral director also in the drop-down, the first and last name of the deceased, and whatever name goes on their memorial, which could include a nickname. I hit save, and it has created the case. You see all the other tabs are white because they still need information. That's okay. I can still go straight to the financials and start writing a statement of goods and services. The first thing I'll do is start with a package. We will take your GPLs and input them into the FDMS system before you start using the system. So all you have to do is select a package. Let's say they chose the Celebration of Life package. I would click on it, click Add, and all of the items with their prices for that package will automatically be listed here. Let's say I want to delete something. They don't want the register book, for example. I just click on the icon and it disappears. Let's say I need to put in a price for the obituary notice. So I click on the newspaper notice and I add the price here. And save it. And it's added. This particular family needs a casket. So I'm going to click on Add Merchandise, use the drop down, choose Caskets, and they chose a wood casket, which happens to be the Woodbridge Pecan. I've clicked on that and click Add, and not only is that added to the list, but its sales tax is also added. Now, one thing I need to do to save this is to choose the sales type. So this is at need burial. I'll go up here and save it, and we're all set. Now, in this stage, it's unposted. But if I am going to be receiving money from them pretty soon, I know that this is what they want. I click on this to send charges to accounting, to post it, save it, and you'll see that all of the items have gone from blue to black. Now, this doesn't mean that I can't change anything. I can still edit. But it does make it so that we make less errors. You can print this out, you can save it. We will customize this for you with your logo and make sure it's formatted in a way that meets the legal standards for your location. For bill to parties, we can add and save names of all the people who are responsible for the bill. Now we're going to add a payment. As you can see, the amount due is $87.47 35, and David Smith Jr. has already paid $8,000. Now we're going to look at payments. It looks like the entire amount has been paid. If I wanted to enter a payment, I would just click here, put in the payment source, the name of the person making the payment and the amount that they've paid, and save that. So in this case, we have 3 people that have paid the balance, and I would like to print out a receipt for Jennifer. This receipt shows what each of the people paid toward this contract, but it doesn't show any of the details of the contract. Now, we can just use this drop down to choose a receipt with details, and that'll show exactly what was being paid for. Some other features are included up here at the top of the screen. Click on Cases, and I can do an advanced case search for active, archived, pre-need cases. I can search by any combination of the deceased's name or the informant or the contract number or the date. Then there are many, many reports. One that is very useful is the schedule report. Here I can choose the location or the locations, and it will list the services and notes for a particular day. And this can be sent out to the staff, so everyone is literally on the same page. There's also the detail report. And this mimics the whiteboard in your bullpen. Accounting will show bank deposits, finance charges if you're letting someone make payments with an interest charge attached. We have check writer, where all checks can be prepared. If you have one admin and many locations, the admin can generate the checks and the funeral director can print them out in a different location. There are many accounting reports, including exports to QuickBooks, Peachtree, or any accounting software you use. And sales reporting, which gives you the power of our performance tracker software, is included. When we set you up in FDMS, we get your bank account information linked to your FDMS page. We customize the drop-downs throughout the system for you, and we will customize forms when needed at an hourly rate. Your expense accounts, your price lists, all the users and locations, your funeral directors and their license numbers for any forms that need that information, your arrangers, reports, GL accounts for accounting, any bookmarks you want to have set up, and any other data you want to import from another system. All of this is included when we get you set up. If you have no software system right now, just paper, we can typically get you set up in 2 weeks. The last thing I'll point out is the Help tab in the bottom left corner. You can click on that, and it will provide you with a full FDMS how-to guide, so if you have a question about how to do anything in the system, you can find the answer. You can print this out too. There are also tutorials. But of course, before you start using FDMS, we will set up a remote meeting with you and your staff and walk you through all the steps in the system. And you'll have a test place to experiment before you go live. Thank you for your interest in FDMS and for watching this demo. We look forward to talking with you soon.